Mrs. Jones here, Head of Special Operations. I have a mission for you, Year 6. Smithers is ill and we urgently need more spy gadget designs for Alex's undercover mission. We have received some great designs via email, but none are detailed enough to allow production, I'm afraid. Your design blueprint needs to be accompanied by a detailed description outlining its purpose and features. Remember, your gadget needs to be an item that a 14-year-old would wear or carry to avoid raising suspicion, and remember it must be non-lethal, as Alex is of course an underage agent. Your mission is time critical and of utmost importance. You know how to contact me. Year 6. It's former Agent M here. I've been working on some gadget designs with Smithers, but as you know, Agent P recently sabotaged my reputation with the agency. Wrongfully, I might add, and Mrs. Jones has lost confidence in my abilities. I must share my gadget designs with you and my experience with writing descriptions so you can successfully make a pitch to Mrs. Jones and help Alex with his mission. You must not tell anyone of my involvement. Shh! Firstly, I hope you enjoyed last week's lesson on hyphens. We've really enjoyed reading all of the Stormbreaker reviews sent in to us at MI5. I'd like to give a particular shout out to Eden for her well-written typed review, and also to Charlie E for his fantastic review put onto Reading Cloud. For today's lesson, it would help to have listened to Chapter 6 of Stormbreaker, so you can pause now and head to YouTube if you need to catch up. Okay, so my best gadget design so far is this specially adapted sleuth bike. It has a lot of specifications that need to be listed and features that need to be described, meaning that you will need to use some special punctuation. Mrs. Jones is famously fussy about punctuation and won't accept poorly punctuated descriptions. Of course, your writing must also be very formal, as she is always very professional. Your learning objective for today will be to use varied punctuation, which builds on what we have covered so far. Our new SPAG focus today will be on colons. A colon is a piece of punctuation which looks like two dots, like this, one on top of the other. If you want to type a colon on a keyboard, you should hold and press down Shift while pressing this key with the colon in it at the same time. A colon can be used for different reasons, but today we are going to look at when a colon is used to introduce a list. This is particularly useful when listing items made up of more than one word, perhaps if they have been described using expanded noun phrases. For example, when listing the sleuth bike's devices in this sentence. The sleuth bike has a variety of built-in devices to deter pursuit. A smoke screen emitting bike pump, an oil slick dispenser disguised as a water bottle, and a marble release system within the saddle. There are some important rules to remember for using colons. Rule number 1. The first word after the colon does not need a capital letter. Rule number 2. The items listed after the colon need to be separated by the usual commas for a list, ending with an and before the last item. Rule number 3, which is the trickiest part, the introducing clause before the colon has to make sense on its own if you remove the rest of the sentence. For example, if I read out the introducing clause, the underlined part before the colon, it makes sense on its own as a sentence. The sleuth bike has a variety of built-in devices to deter pursuit. If we look at a slightly different sentence, we can see that it would not be correct to use a colon after this clause because it doesn't make sense on its own. The sleuth bike has a variety of built-in devices, including, does not make sense on its own. So I would need to take out the colon for this sentence for it to make sense and be correctly punctuated. It is then just a normal list sentence using commas, which is perfectly fine and how we would write a list most of the time. Colons are just a fancy piece of punctuation that is particularly useful for writing more complicated lists with lots of details. Okay, now it's your turn to practice. Use this sentence starter to start you off, then list some of your own ideas using a colon. The sleuth bike has a variety of built-in devices too. You can pause the video now. Well Well done. Now let's check your sentence. Did you make sure that your first clause makes sense on its own? Did you check that you didn't use a capital letter after the colon? And did you remember to use commas to list your items? I want to describe some of the bike's high-tech aspects next. High-tech materials. Do you notice I'm using a hyphen there for my adjective? High-tech materials have been used to maximise, you see my formal language I'm using, maximise the bicycle's, that needs an apostrophe, the bicycle's performance. Okay, that's my introductory clause. Let me just check if it makes sense on its own. High-tech materials have been used to maximise the bicycle's performance. Yeah, that makes sense. So I can go ahead and use my colon to introduce my list of high-tech materials. So I'm going to start with a lightweight aluminium frame using my expanded noun phrase to describe it. As you can see, I don't need a capital letter here. A lightweight aluminium frame, that's my first item, so our list comma goes here. Puncture resistant, another hyphenated adjective, puncture resistant elastomer tyres. That's my second item in the list, and I'm going to have one more, so it's going to be my last one next, so I'll have an and, a wide range of off-road gears. Finish with my full stop, obviously at the end of my sentence. Let's check through and see if it makes sense and if it's well punctuated. High-tech materials have been used to maximise the bicycle's performance. A lightweight aluminium frame, puncture-resistant elastomer tyres and a wide range of off-road gears. Yeah, I'm happy that makes sense and the punctuation is correct. My next sentence lists some optional extras for the bike. I've purposefully left out the colon and comma. Can you add them into the correct place so that the sentence is punctuated correctly? Pause the video now and have a go. Well done. Of course, the colon needs to go here to introduce the list. And the comma needs to go here to separate the different items in the list. So let's check and see if it's punctuated correctly. State-of-the-art bicycle accessories are available as optional extras. That clause makes sense on its own, so that's fine. Colon, no capital letter. A bulletproof cycling jersey, one item, comma. An intensely bright magnesium flare lamp, two items. Or a communication device disguised as a bell, three items. Did you notice I used the conjunction or instead of and to finish my list in this example? I am now well on my way to writing a detailed description of my sleuth bike, but before I carry on, it's quiz time. To see if you've got the hang of using colons in a list, head to kahoot.it or the Kahoot app and enter the game pin 07619 or just click on the link mentioned in the Year 6 email. Your nickname should be your first name and initial because it will be open to the whole of Year 6. The quiz will be available until 3 p.m. on Thursday the 14th of May. Don't forget to log back in after that to check the leaderboard and see who won. How did you get on? If you need some more practice or just like doing a quiz, you can follow the second link given in the email to do another quiz. Let's get back to writing my description of my sleuth bike. I need to start with a short introduction to explain who and what my gadget is designed for. Remember that today's LO was to use varied punctuation. Designed to provide a fast, safe, and reliable means of transport for agents in off-road. As you can see, I'm using my hyphenated adjective knowledge in off-road areas. Also going to use some punctuation for parenthesis. I'm going to add in some brackets here to give some details, such as woodland or beaches. Close brackets. That's the end of my subordinate clause there. The sleuth bike, I'm using a capital letter because it's the name I've given for my bike, is highly customised, yet well disguised. Another hyphenated adjective. And that's the end of my sentence. Capital letter, it is perfect for Alex Ryder. 2 capital letters needed for a name. I'm going to add in a relative clause now using a comma for parenthesis. Who is below the legal age to drive a vehicle. End of my sentence. That will do for my introduction. Now, I've already written 3 list sentences with you using colons to list the gadget's devices, what it's made from, and its accessories. So all I need to do now is write them up in neat after my introduction that I've just written with you. I could then go on to describe a few more things about it, but I think a detailed paragraph is probably about enough. Now your Chili challenges are as follows. Chili 1 is to accurately use commas for a list. Chili 2 is to accurately use a colon to introduce a list. And Chili 3 is to include a range of other Year 6 punctuation, for example, hyphens, brackets, or semicolons. So you need to decide what gadget you are going to write in about. You can, of course, reinvent my bike design or use any of my blueprints so far that I've already created with this Smithers. This is the radio mouth brace. This is the exploding ear stud or earring. Or the infrared goggles. Even better, you can invent and describe your own spy gadget for Alex. When you email your gadget design to Mrs. Jones via the cunningly disguised Year 6 email, of course, you can either send a photograph of a prototype made from household items or a labelled diagram. Remember, it must be accompanied by a detailed description, and you must remember to check your punctuation and spelling carefully so that she is impressed. Good luck, and remember, I was never here.